Hey guys, welcome to our first episode of a series called Real Life, where we just want to talk about some things that maybe aren't talked about a lot, but are part of our life, like part of the real Christian walk.
Yeah, in this Real Life series, we're going to hit on some hard-hitting topics that are just kind of maybe a little bit awkward for some of you guys, but definitely a part of our lives, definitely a part of real life. And if we don't talk about them, if we don't give you guys a biblical perspective on these types of things, then where else are we going to hear them? I mean, we can learn from so many different areas, but our promise to you is that no matter what we talk about, we will tell you the truth. We will tell you what the Bible says and what God says about these different topics. Today, we wanted to just jump right in. We wanted to get about as real as we could get with it.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about porn. I was 11 years old when I was first exposed to it. My neighbor down the street set me up and kind of showed me some magazines that he had. And from that moment, I was hooked. And I was addicted bad for years and years and years, from the time I was young like that. I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was something like that, all the way until I was 26, something like that. I was addicted, and I mean, I would have a really, really difficult time with that. But I was always a Christian. It was always like a secret struggle for me. I always kept it hidden. I always kept it like, oh no, people can't find out about it. And it's just it was a very real and shameful part of my life for a really, really long time. And I learned some things about it. I learned some things while I was there. First of all, the shame, like the hiding of it. And anytime I would hide it, it would just get worse. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've experienced something like that, where like the more you try to keep it a secret, just the more it just kind of bubbles.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate a lot to that. Just with your story about like how early you got started in like looking at pornography and things like that. I can relate to that. But yeah, like it was same for me. Like I was a Christian, but I would kind of keep that a secret and push that to the side and not talk about it. And you know, when we live in the dark, when we're not living in the light, it makes it a lot easier for us to stumble. Yeah. You know, think about it. Like it makes sense logically. Like if there's no lights on, you're gonna trip if there's stuff around. You know what I mean? Like if you're living in the dark and you're not bringing it up to people, it makes it a lot easier to do. And the shame of it, is a real big part of that. Like if you are taking that on yourself and there's not anyone to speak life and speak truth into you, because you're keeping it to yourself, you're just going to let that inner voice, whether it's the enemy or whoever, that inner voice just bring you down and destroy you, for sure.
And I think that this subject is even, especially nowadays, maybe when it was like in my generation, this was like a mostly guys, like 90% guys struggle. But nowadays, I really feel like that it is like a split, like 50-50 split between guys and girls. Like this is not just a struggle for guys anymore. This is something that girls have to deal with as well. And there's so much, especially for girls, there's so much stigma and shame because like they're girls, they should feel that way, or they should. But real life, it happens, and we struggle. So friends, the first thing that we want you to know, if you are struggling with this, like from both of us, we've been there. We know what that's like, and we're not trying to shame you or put you down in any way. But what we want to do here is give you guys some tools that can help you grow and grow past this. I think the first thing was the shame and the secrecy of it all is what really feeds it. Dr. Phil says you're as sick as your secrets. That whatever you keep inside is just going to bubble up and it's going to come out, and it's just nasty. I heard a great analogy. Eskimos. Have you heard of this? Mm-hmm. Eskimos wolf hunting?
No.
It's great. Eskimos, when they would wolf hunt, they would take a sword, they would stick it in the ground, and then they would take some like blood and they would pour it over the top, and then they'd freeze it, and then they'd pour some more blood over the ice, and then they'd freeze it, and then pour some more blood and they'd freeze it. So it's like essentially like a blood popsicle. Yeah, it's gross. But what the wolves would do is they would come up to this like popsicle after they poured the blood on it. They wouldn't freeze it, so it was a fresh scent. And these wolves, they would come and they would just start licking the blood popsicle they would taste the blood, and eventually, as they licked it, they would get all the way through to the sword, and they would lick their own blood, and then they would just keep going because they tasted the blood, but they couldn't feel it because their tongue was numb.
That's like making me feel weird. I'm like...
But at the end of the day, at the end of the night, the Eskimos would come out in the morning and there would be a dead wolf next to this sword because the wolf would kill itself because of its own bloodlust. That is so much like lust in our lives, that we just continue to go back to this thing that is really destroying us. I don't know how to say this the right way, and this is on the internet, so it's going to be there forever, but pornography has twisted me. It's twisted my brain, the way that I look at things and the way that I talk to people. Like, I have to regularly, even as a grown 34-year-old pastor, I have to regulate my mind. And because of what I have allowed in to my head, I have to process things differently. So my prayer for you, my hope for you is we're catching this early enough for you guys to pull back now, so you guys don't have to go through the same mental gymnastics that I had to go through. Because what is happening when we are struggling with lust or pornography or whatever it is, we are essentially like those wolves, and we get the taste, but we are just killing ourselves.
It is an addiction. Like, it starts to rewire our brain and change the way we think.
Yeah.
And a lie we can tell ourselves is that it has no effect. Like, it doesn't affect anybody else. It doesn't affect ourselves, maybe. Even we're saying that, like, you know, you look at it and then it's just like, oh, well, I'm fine afterwards. Like, but really, it's changing the way we think, and it can spill out into our lives in all sorts of different ways. I know for me, it started like spilling out more in my life, in my relationships. Like, a relationship I had back in high school, like, we got intimate, like, we got sexually intimate, and I'm sure most of it was because of this rewiring that was happening in my brain. And the idea, like, the more I saw it, the more I thought it was okay and something that I could do. So it just led me down into that spiral, essentially.
So we know that these things are destructive, and let's kind of even define some terms. So, like, there's porn, we know what that is. Like, that's the no good stuff where you got to say that you're 18 or over to get onto the website or whatever. There's that stuff that is obviously, like, everyone's like, that's bad. People still go and look at it, but we know that that's wrong. But then there's other types. There's like Instagram, where you're just looking on your feed, right? You're just scrolling through and like, oh, there's a girl. Oh, keep going. We'll keep going. Oh, no. And, you know, and it's those pauses. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot. And frankly, that's because that other stuff has warped our minds to be desensitized to this, because the reality is like even Instagram, or even, I mean, especially TikTok. But,
especially TikTok, yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was like, if you're not going to say it, I'll...
Yeah. Any of those types of things, they are, although not blatantly pornography, if they cause you to stumble in your mind, that's the same thing. I mean, Jesus said, if you look at a woman lustfully, you've committed adultery in your mind. It's the same thing. So when we are talking about pornography, we're not just talking about the bad stuff, but we're talking about the stuff that is close by your heart as well, the stuff that's just right here. So let's see, how do we fix it? Yeah. So how do we fix it? The first one, don't keep it a secret. Right? We talked about the shame of like keeping it in the dark and it bubbles up. What's another one?
For me, I take it to God regularly. Psalm 51 is a good one for me. Create in me a clean heart, O God. This is one of those sins that you can very clearly see comes from the heart. And so just the idea that I take it to God and I say, God, I need a new heart. Like, I don't want you to fix the one I had. Like, I need a whole new one. That's just wired differently. Like, one that will love people as you love them, not in a lustful way, like that I wouldn't see people in that way, but a heart that's wired differently. So I take it to God is one of the main things that I do, and I ask Him to just clean my heart, clean my mind, and to just renew His Spirit in me.
Absolutely, and we know that He is faithful to do that.
Yeah.
To give us that new heart. He gives us those clean hearts and the clean thoughts, and that's a beautiful part of what God does for us. For me, a big part of my journey has been accountability. Finding somebody or somebodies, people who will keep me accountable. On all of my electronic devices, I have accountability software. And every single morning, my wife gets an email that has a list of all of the websites that I go to. And if there's anything that's questionable, my wife will ask me about it. So I know that that's going to happen. But then also I have people in my life who I know that whenever I hang out with them, they're going to ask me, how are you doing? And the key is, and I didn't always do a great job, but you got to be honest with them. You got to really tell them whether or not you're doing well or not. Because otherwise, what's the point? There's no point in it. So don't keep it in. Don't hide it. Don't be shameful. Bring it to God. Bring it to people. Get accountability in one way or the other. And friends, know that you're not alone. The enemy loves to make you feel like you are alone, that you are the only one going through this, or the only one who has this weird thing, or the only one that would do something as atrocious or as awful as this. But the reality is that we struggle with these things. That's real life. And it's never too late to talk to somebody or talk to God. And when we do those things regularly, guys, you will learn that you can walk in freedom from pornography and freedom from lust, and know that God has forgiven you and that He loves you and that He wants to give you new life through the blood of Jesus.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this segment, Real Life. We appreciate that you guys are checking this out and really looking at our heart to go into some of these heavier topics and some of these deeper topics. If you're a guy, David and I are here for you if you guys need accountability. Yep. Girls, maybe find your small group leader or somebody else that you. Let's make practical steps. Let's be wise and take what we talked about and let's do something about it. So feel free to reach out to somebody and start taking those steps. But thank you so much, guys, for checking this out. Appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good week. God bless.
Bye.